Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Good morning, Dr. Ridgway.
Morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Are you still in Orlando?
I still am.
You know, you retired recently, right, as a veterinarian, but I know you're writing books.
Yes, I've written, I guess, about 14 now.
Really?
Yeah.
But they're not all about pets, are they?
No, I can't. You know what happens when you write them? They start running together, and you can't remember what's in them, and you can't even remember the title.
Well, let me tell you something interesting. I think it's probably because of you, but it's really good. It's not bad. I have been having, our company has been having cure symposiums for the last, we're on our 7th one. And we, of course, have doctors, scientists on. It's a medical cure, stands for Cutting Edge Understanding, Research, and Education. And we have had wonderful expos. We've learned, it's symposiums. We've learned so much. And this past time, I decided I was going to have a veterinarian talk about what the latest information is that's happening to pets, because we all seem to have pets. So I thought you'd be interested in that.
Yeah. Well, you know what the latest thing is? You're not going to believe what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But bees are going to be under the jurisdiction of the veterinarians, honeybees. Not because they're bees, but because it's a food producer, and they use antibiotics on the bees, and the fear of using too much, causing antibiotic resistance in people, has been one of the drivers of this phenomenon. I mean, this is just out in the AVMA journal, and you know what most veterinarians know about bees at this point is next to nothing, but I guess we're going to be cranking up, and we're going to learn a lot about bees here very quickly.
That's a fascinating subject. Can you write you've already given us a wonderful, wonderful article, as a matter of fact, for our November issue, which is the urethral obstruction in cats, and that's great. But how about for December? Could you do something like that in December? And I think that would be extraordinary.
Well, there's not much known about it. I can write just something, but
right.
The amount of knowledge that I have about the phenomenon of taking on the responsibility for health of bees is very limited.
But we do know that the bees are so critical to our existence. I have written, I think about it, I don't know how many months ago, but I featured a bumblebee on the cover. I don't know if you remember that, and I wrote something about bumblebees and their extinction because of a lot of reasons, of pesticides, and also I am very happy to hear what you're telling us.
Yeah. Well, I've read about, do you know anything about reduvid bugs?
What are they called?
Reduvid bugs.
No. Tell us.
Well, they carry a disease called Chagas disease. It's a panisome blood parasite, and the bug common name is called kissing bug, and because they happen to bite around the eyes and stuff like that. And supposedly none of them are in Florida, but I walk about 3 miles every day, and I have seen 7 of those bugs on the sidewalk. And I figure if there's 7 of those on the sidewalk, as I'm walking in our little development, there have to be one heck of a lot of those bugs in the area. So it's a black bug, and it's kind of an odd shaped booger, and it happens to seem to want to bite around areas on the body that have moisture, like your eyes and your mouth, etc. And it's called the sleeping bug because of the way it attacks.
Huh. This is amazing stuff to me. I know that, of course, now you look at Zika and you look at things we've never heard of before. So we truly are in a global economy, aren't we?
Well, yes, and, probably a lot of hard winds and stuff. This is rather common in Mexico, and I suppose these bugs don't know that there's a border, and they're supposed to stay on the south side.
Right. And you're gonna have to have papers in order to get in, right?
Now, Vince, we're talking about that. You know, a lot of there's several bugs that bite animals that create problems, and one of them happens to be honeybees. And when they bite, they leave the stinger in the body, and if you grab a hold of the stinger and squeeze it and pull up on it to remove it, you inject more venom, making the bite worse. So the idea there is to use something dull, like a credit card, and scrape it off. Don't grab a hold of it with your hand, because when you do, or a pair of tweezers, you'll squeeze it, and when you squeeze it, you inject more venom. There's a little bulb on the stinger that's left, and of course the bee dies, but that's part of their defense. You know, another problem we have here in Florida is fire ants, and they bite, and they grab a hold, and they kind of bite in a circle. And I've seen it about 3 or 4 times, and what this fire ants will leave a black circle on the abdomen of your pet. And the first time I seen it, I didn't really realize what I was looking at. And it can be a problem if you have fire ants in your yard and you're letting your pets out. You'll find that you'll have this problem. I've had people who didn't know what it was, and I told them I thought it was fire ants, and so they did some checking, and they came back and told me that they felt pretty sure I was right.
Well, I remember that when we had a house. We live in an apartment now. We had a house, and there were always fire ants around, and if you just stupidly walked over a set of the piles they make, you'd really get very badly stung. And it's hard to, I guess we used to put ice on it. I forget what we did, but it's not a pretty picture. And poor dogs, that must be terrible for them.
Well, I think it is. I wouldn't like to be bitten by it, And then there's other things like a black widow and a brown recluse and mosquitoes and wasps that all add up. And so there's a lot of bugs that can cause some trouble. I think that probably the brown recluse is the worst. The black widow can cause weakness, paralyzes, and death. And cats are more sensitive to black widow than our dogs, and as well as young animals. So, but finding, I don't know that I've ever seen a black widow in Florida. I'm sure they're here, but on my granddad's farm in the privy outside, they were rather common. I haven't seen any here myself, but that doesn't mean that they're not here.
Well, let's go back to your veterinarian days, because this is exciting stuff now that and let me just give you a little example of something. When our wonderful little Snowy was very sick, we wound up taking her to a veterinarian clinic, which is called the Carl Springs Medical Center Pet Animal Center. And apparently they have about 33 vets there in all fields. They apparently are the largest animal clinic in the Southeast. And they're really extraordinary. And I thought of you because I don't know, if you ever had your own clinic before you went to work for the I guess it was the area there, but we were going to have an oncologist, and he couldn't make it, so we're having a cardiologist. And years ago, we didn't have specialties for pets. When did that all happen?
Well, when I was in the College of Veterinary Medicine, specialties were getting started. Human medicine had them for a while, and some of these veterinarians were interested in that particular field, like cardiology, ophthalmology, gastroenterology, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And so they went out on a limb and got specialized in that field, and as time progressed, it became more and more prevalent that you can't know everything, and if you can go to a specialist who specializes in knowledge in that particular area, you're probably better off than going to a general practitioner. and often general practitioners will refer pets to a specialist who has an in-depth knowledge of a particular area. A lot of things you can do at a general practitioner, but sometimes it gets beyond that, and the field of ophthalmology is just, a lot of blindness now. They're able to repair it, and people can actually see. So human medicine is ahead of veterinary medicine by quite a bit in some areas, and so veterinary medicine has a little bit of catching up to do. And the equipment that is necessary to do these things, the price is astronomical. It's just unbelievable how expensive the equipment is.
Right. Well, they gave me a tour of this clinic, it's huge, and they have all the things that you would go into a hospital, the MRIs and all the things. You're very right, but they must have a major, major business. People come from all over. But I guess my question is, years ago when you were in veterinary school, did they really save dogs and cats that had cancer as they try to do now? I mean, wasn't it just something bad and they just put them to sleep?
Well, that depends, because every case of cancer is between the client, the pet, and the veterinarian. And when I was in veterinary college, we didn't even have an oncologist on staff. And when I did my residency at the University of California, Davis, there was about 5 of them that were residents in the area of oncology. And so that's real. And I always thought, which is worse? I say worse, oncology or neurology. But the fields, the specialized fields, I think, have catapulted the field of veterinary medicine way, way above what it used to be back in the days. When you basically had somebody that was a radiologist and we didn't have internists, and so it's really a good thing for veterinary medicine to have these specialties, because they can, I think, do a better job of providing care for pets, which in the past, like you mentioned, may have been euthanized, are now survivors.
Well, I was thinking about that because I remember when I was growing up, we loved our pets, but we just opened the door, they went outside. I mean, it wasn't, if we were going away, I don't know what we did with the dog. I guess we brought him into maybe a vet's clinic to watch him. I'm not really sure, but today people treat their pets like their children. I mean, they provide, so maybe that's what's happened.
Well, I think it's a growing concern, and I think that people have a tendency to drive the need for more and more and better care. And you were talking about, like in the old days, heck, we never let the dog in the house.
Right.
Now people sleep with it and they buy clothes.
Right. Exactly. They didn't. Right. Not only do they let them in the house, they sleep with them, and you're right. They have raincoats for them. They do all sorts of things. I mean, the nice thing, though, I think that's also happened. Maybe you could address this, is people are adopting pets. Usually, I don't know if they did. Everyone wanted puppies, and now a lot of us take a grown dog if it needs help.
Well, it's kind of different strokes for different folks. Everybody has an opinion, and so you not one fits everybody, and so that's the reason you have different colors of cars. You have different colors of clothes, different types of everything. Because of the different personalities and the people who are involved in the case. So it just depends on the taste of the individual and what they want.
Well, I want to just tell everybody that this excellent guest, and I love when he comes on, is Dr. Robert Ridgway. he has been speaking with us as a veterinarian, I don't know, maybe 10 years, a long time, because we featured his book many years ago, and it was The Truth About Dog and Cat Treatments and Anomalies, and it is available on Amazon. It's Ridgway, Ridgway. And Dr. Ridgway he has now retired, but tell everyone what your position was before, because that was really a major position and all the good you did.
Well, the last 10 years I worked for Orange County Animal Services, which is a shelter, and we did mostly spays. I did on average about 20 surgeries a day. That's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah. And so we did cats and dogs, and once in a while I even fixed a broken bone, and that I love doing that, but we were so busy they didn't want us to focus on broken bones. They just wanted us to do spays.
Just make sure we didn't make more puppies, right? Or cats or something.
Well, I don't know. See, one of the things that we did was feral cats. It's a trap surgery and release, and we never, ever made a dent in that. For every cat that's spayed, there's probably 400 new cats born.
Oh, no kidding.
You know, it's just impossible to get ahead of it. I don't know if that program is effective at all. I've read several articles about areas that have been set aside just to put stray animals in it, and they found that was no good, and they abandoned that program. I know the state of Kansas was trying to eliminate coyotes, and they abandoned that program. And so the control of these things with the technologies that we have today is very, very limited, and I don't think very successful.
That's interesting. Well, my son and his family in Miami started. There were some cats in the back, and then they had kittens, and they never let them in their house, but they fed them and took care of them. But they were wild, and they kept having kittens. So I thought they should just take them and have them fixed, as I say. And they wound up doing that, and they now have these cats outside, but they're not having kittens anymore.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. You know, one of the problems that people have, I think their heart's in the right position, is hoarders. And
hoarders.
Yeah, and you know, they'll get up to 100 or 150 animals. And now, if they have a couple, 2 or 3, they can handle that. They can clean them and all that kind of stuff. But when they get to 150, they get tired of taking care of them, so they don't feed them, they don't water them. Filth becomes a huge problem, and it becomes a real mess. And unfortunately, a lot of people hoard, and they get up to 100. Orange County has run into somebody that have 150 cats and 100 birds and 75 dogs, and they're one person trying to take care of that many animals. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's true. And their heart's in the right place. And it's so sweet to see these cute little kittens and their faces, and you just wish that people really did a good job with them. And when you told me 400, I can't even believe that. We have some feral cats in our area. We live in a group where there's a lot of condos, and you can see them in the woods and the trees, and someone's feeding them. And they keep having more, and then there are raccoons there, and they seem like they're friends because the raccoons and the cats seem to live in the same area, and the raccoons eat the same food, cat food.
Let me say something about raccoons. They carry distemper, and they're not immunized. And
right.
If you have your dogs going into areas where raccoons are, you got a real good chance of your dog coming down with distemper unless you keep it immunized.
Right.
So that's a hazard. The other thing is skunks and raccoons carry a parasite that can get into the brains of people, and so you need to be cautious of that. I had a picture of people were studying fleas, and the raccoons were coming into the yards, and they took this picture, and there must have been 12 raccoons in this one tree.
Oh, my.
in this particular neighborhood, and it's a problem. It's a health hazard to people, and it's definitely a health hazard to pets because they bring fleas and distemper, and wildlife has a problem with rabies too. The most common animal in the wild with rabies is skunks.
Huh.
It doesn't mean that skunks are more prone to it, but it just happens that they happen to be in the areas where I suppose the disease is. And some people think that skunks get a bad reputation because of the large number of animals that have skunks. And what I have learned is that if you're going to guess which animal has a higher chance of having rabies, cats or dogs, the answer is cats. And the reason is people that have dogs tend to get them immunized. People who have cats don't. And I have seen 2 cases of rabies in cats in my little stay at the Orange County Animal Services. And I put a sign on the cage, "Don't mess with this animal," and some dum-dum felt sorry for him, so started messing with the cat. And, this rabies is a very, very death-causing disease, and it's devastating.
We've never really talked about this. Doctor, I guess we're running out of time, Dr. Ridgway, but I want to have you on more often because all these subjects are so interesting, and most people don't hear someone like you talk about this. And I love when you're on. You're so kind to share all this with us, and I really appreciate it, and we certainly wish you, a good retirement, even though we're going to keep using you, and you write great articles, and we'll be publishing his article, which is the urethral obstruction in cats, which apparently is very common in male cats. So look forward to that in the November issue, and maybe the next time we can talk about the bumblebees, or you can do a little research for us.
Well, there's not very much information on
okay.
that. I don't know if I can get 300 words out of
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can do that, and on one of the other things you talked about with sorts of little insects. But thank you so much, and have a great weekend, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Well, you have a magical day.
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much, Dr. Ridgway.